Dr. Bill Bailey, and this is VirtZine. VirtZine is the online magazine of virtualization and cloud computing, and I'm glad you could join us for this particular edition of VirtZine. We've got several things that we want to cover that have been in the news over the last few months or so since we did our last VirtZine. VirtZine I do kind of semi-occasionally, okay? Not on a regular schedule like the Dr. Bill Show. The Dr. Bill Show is at drbill.tv, as it says there on the screen, and we do a show every week for Dr. Bill. But VirtZine we do it less often because basically I like to talk about things that I am personally interested in virtualization and cloud computing, and trends and things of that nature. And so I don't cover every single thing that comes out about virtualization and cloud computing, just to make it clear to you out there. And the first thing we want to talk about, oh, by the way, we are proud members of the Tech Podcast Network, techpodcast.com. If it's tech, it's right here on the VirtZine Netcast. Now, we want to talk about Ubuntu closing its cloud drive service. They had Ubuntu One, which is a cloud drive service. This actually was from April the 13th, it's a little ways back, and they closed it effectively June 1, which was earlier this month as I record this. They closed out their cloud service. Seems like everybody was getting into cloud file storage there at one point, and Ubuntu developed an infrastructure and set up cloud storage for their customers. They integrated it into their Ubuntu operating system, but it just really never caught on. And people were using Dropbox, they were using Box.com, they were using Google Drive. Of course, Microsoft now has its OneDrive service. So, you know, there just wasn't a need that to be filled there. There were people using other services, and so they ended up closing it. And in a way, I give them some credit for that, because there's no need to just come out with something and just say, me too, me too. You know, if that need has already been filled, then why spend the extra money for the infrastructure and everything else necessary to maintain a cloud service like that? All right, next item that we want to talk about is setting up your own Amazon S3. Now, I know that sounds a little different, but a company called Skylabel has released an open source version of the Amazon S3 software system, which can be installed in a data center, can be installed at your home too, but in a data center for a business, and be used just like Amazon's S3, using the same tools like the open source Dragon Disk, which I use. I'm a great fan of that for managing my cloud resources. And because it is open source, this Amazon S3 clone is available both as binaries that you can download, or the actual source code if you need to go in and tweak it or change it or whatever. It's truly open source and is available for download. Now, Skylabel has it available. They called it Libre S3, you know, like LibreOffice, free and open. This is Libre S3. So I have a link here on VirtZine on the blog that you can click on to read more about Libre S3, and you can set up your own S3 Amazon clone in your own data center, which you may have strong need to do that. So it's really amazing that they've made this available as an open source tool. Now, here's a question for you in the next article that I have posted here from May the 30th. Will VMware crush Citrix? Now, you know that I'm a Citrix administrator. I'm also a VMware administrator and a Linux administrator at our local hospital here in High Point, which is where I live. And you would think, well, Dr. Bill, you're a Citrix guy. What are you talking about? VMware crushing Citrix. Well, I wear two hats, Citrix and VMware. And, of course, I've been a Citrix guy for, wow, years and years and years, probably over 15 years that I've been working with Citrix. So, you know, I appreciate their technology. I think it's amazing. XenApp, application delivery, is one of the key technologies that we use at the hospital to deliver 65 different applications through XenApp. So great technology, no question. But they have focused now on their VDI product, Zen Desktop. And in doing that, I think they've made some strategic moves as a company. This is my opinion. Not the opinion of the hospital, not the opinion of anybody, just my personal opinion. I want to make that clear. Okay? In my opinion, I believe they've made some moves that are not wise from a corporate standard from maintaining their core base. Now, you may say, well, Dr. Bill, you're an old-time Citrix guy still using XenApp. Well, yes, I am. But I do appreciate XenApp, and it has been their core business. It's been what most Citrix administrators have been hired to do, is to maintain XenApp over the years. Now, yes, Zen Desktop has been gaining in popularity, but in a way, I think what Citrix has done is they've thrown all their interest and investment and development into Zen Desktop and said that's the future. And they've let XenApp kind of languish a bit. Matter of fact, recently they almost shut down XenApp. 6.5 feature pack 1 or thereabouts was going to be basically the last version. And that's the version that I'm personally running where I work. So they were basically saying, this is it, we're dropping it. And, of course, the corporate community was up in arms. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? We need XenApp. So Citrix kind of relented and said, well, all right. We'll bring out XenApp 7.5, which is their latest version. And it was kind of last minute. Okay, we'll bring it out. And they based it off of the Zen Desktop code rather than the IMA base of code. So the older Citrix versions were based on IMA architecture. This 7.5 is going to be based on Zen Desktop, which is FMA architecture. You say, well, Dr. Bill, does that really matter? Well, here's where it matters. The basic thing where it matters is that the IMA architecture allowed for local caching of information about the entire farm, Citrix farm, on each server in the farm. So if you lost your database server temporarily, the farm would just keep running because it knew about all the applications and everything going on from the local cache. And so there was no interruption of service. Well, with the new architecture, if you lose your database server, you're essentially going to be down. So it is less available, less redundant, if you will, than it was in the older architecture. And there's other things that you lose. There's other features that they're cutting out of this new version 7.5. So I think it was not a wise move on their part. Plus, they seem to be wishy-washy about the direction that they have for XenApp published application delivery, in the sense of an interface. They had the web interface, which has been around since the old days when they originally brought out Infuse. You're a really old Citrix guy if you remember Infuse, all right? But when Infuse came out, you go to a website, you click on an icon on the web page, and it launched the application. Okay? And that was different from the ICA agent that Citrix had before that. And of course, they still supported, but the web interface was a new big thing. Well, everybody got excited about it. They kept improving it. Finally, it was no longer Infuse, but just the Citrix web interface. And then Citrix said, oh, we're dropping that. We're going to go with the storefront, not storehouse. Storefront. And the Citrix storefront is going to replace the web interface. Well, okay. And I worked with it. I set it up, and it works great, and everything was fine. Okay, fine. Still web-based. Then they said, oh, no, we're going to drop that. Then they said, well, no, wait, we're going to bring it back. No, I tell you what, we're going to have the web interface. I mean, they just went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I mean, it showed no clear direction, okay? So I've been concerned about Citrix for that very reason. Now, recently, VMware announced Horizon 6 Horizon View 6. Okay? Their VDI system, which, by the way, we use at the hospital where I work, and I helped bring it in and implement it, kind of championed it. You say, well, Dr. Bill, why didn't you go with Zen Desktop? Well, we did, but it was running on VMware, and we did a VMware upgrade the day before we rolled it out. Okay? Thinking surely it wouldn't make any difference. And it crashed Zen Desktop. We weren't able to roll it out to this one little group application of a classroom. And it left everybody with a bad taste in their mouth about VDI, and that's a shame. A year or so went by, we looked at View, and View worked great. And the comment was, well, you know, View is a VMware product. If we upgrade VMware, surely it won't crash it. So, who knows, true or not, I'm not sure. But because of that, the decision was made corporately to go with View. Now, that was High Point Regional doing that. That's not to say that the decision has been made for the entire UNC healthcare system. A little disclaimer there, all right? I'm not saying that. I'm talking about back in the day, 3 years ago, when we made the decision to go with View. Okay, just want to be clear. All right, but the point is that we went with View. View has been very successful, highly successful at High Point Regional where I work, and has been a really good system. Now, we still use Citrix to deliver applications, right? Okay, VMware now has come out with Horizon 6, which includes a portal that allows you to launch applications. But here's what's important about that portal. It will launch Citrix applications, AppV applications, XenApp applications, cloud-based applications. In other words, the software as a service, SaaS, SaaS type applications, launches those as well from one interface. An amazingly smart move on VMware's part. So that's where this analyst is saying, will VMware crush Citrix? Citrix has been floundering around a bit. VMware has been right on, like a laser beam, right on the goal of what they're trying to do. And now they're coming out with this Horizon 6. And I'm telling you, it may be very interesting what happens here in the near term about VMware. And this particular article was saying that already VMware stock had increased and Citrix's had dropped. So who knows? You know, I'm not predicting one way or the other at this point, but I'm just saying it's very interesting to see what's been happening. All right, that was a little bit of a long discussion, but I wanted to get that out so we could see where we're going in the future. All right, next item here is where June 11th, not that long ago, as I record this, Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 was announced. Now, the amazing thing to me about this particular announcement is that they are now fully supporting the Docker container design or virtualization application, Docker, right there on Red Hat Enterprise Linux version 7. And the features include, as I said, Docker containers run applications at near bare metal speeds, providing isolation and leveraging SE Linux for increased security. They have improved file system enhancements, including a default XFS file system that supports up to 500 terabytes. Wow. Improvements to NFS4, adding extended attributes with SE Linux labels, and LVM, logical volume management, supporting whole volume snapshots with rollback. Lots of new features. There's others here. I won't go into the whole list and just read them off because you can read them in the article on VirtZine. But a really major release of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And then I have one other little note here from June the 19th, just a few days ago, announcing that VMware Horizon 6 binary downloads were being made available June 19th at 8 p.m. Pretty exact information that I got a hold of. And as I said, it may be a game changer for VMware, what this will bring to the industry. So watch what's going to happen between VMware and Citrix. I think it's going to be very interesting. And we'll leave it right there. Remember, until next time, to keep your head in the cloud.